Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to dive deep into the story of one such coin, the 1996 USA quarter dollar, Roosevelt edition, bearing the elusive D mint mark. And while most people might assume a quarter is worth, well, 25 cents, this particular piece has fetched as much as $151 in collector circles. The reasons why? That's what we're about to uncover. Let's start by stepping back in time, not just to 1996, but a bit further, to understand the roots of the Roosevelt design itself. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, led the country through one of its most difficult periods, the Great Depression and World War II. After his death in 1945, the nation mourned. But just months later, the United States Mint announced plans to honor his legacy by placing his image on the dime, replacing the Mercury dime design that had been in circulation since 1916. The Roosevelt dime made its debut in 1946 and was met with widespread public approval. But what many people don't realize is that Roosevelt's presence on American currency doesn't end with the dime. In fact, his influence and legacy have found their way into other areas of U.S. coinage, sometimes in ways that aren't immediately obvious. The 1996 quarter we're discussing today carries his story in subtle ways, not just in symbolism, but in historical context. But here's where the subtle magic begins. The D mint mark, located just to the right of Washington's ponytail, signifies that this coin was struck at the Denver Mint in Colorado. The Denver Mint is one of the key facilities of the U.S. mint system, and it has a long, storied history of producing coins that have become favorites among collectors. Mint marks themselves might seem insignificant, just a single letter stamped on a coin, but for numismatists, they often mean everything. They tell us where a coin was born, how many were made, and sometimes even hint at mistakes or variations that can turn a common coin into a rare gem. Let's talk about condition. In coin collecting, condition is everything. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect, flawless specimen. Most coins that enter circulation show signs of wear and tear, scratches, nicks, dulling from years of handling. But a small percentage are preserved in pristine condition, either because they were set aside immediately after minting, or because they were part of uncirculated sets. These high-grade examples, particularly those graded MS-67 or higher, are incredibly sought after, and here's the catch: for the 1996 D quarter, finding one in mint state 67 or above is surprisingly difficult. Despite the massive mintage, very few coins from that year have survived in such superb condition. This scarcity is one of the primary drivers of the coin's elevated value. Collectors love a challenge, and finding a nearly flawless 1996 D quarter is just that. It's like panning for gold and actually finding a nugget, but there's another layer: minting errors. Throughout history, errors have given rise to some of the most famous and valuable coins ever produced. Double strikes, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and repunched mint marks, these are the kinds of things that make a coin stand out. Let's not forget about eye appeal. Beyond technical grading, collectors are often swayed by a coin's overall visual impact. Toning, luster, and strike quality all matter. A 1996 D quarter with brilliant luster, a strong strike, and attractive toning can fetch far more than a dull or poorly struck example, even if both technically grade the same. The artistry of the coin, its preservation, and even the way it catches the light can all influence its value. By now, you might be wondering, if these coins were minted in the hundreds of millions, how can I tell if mine is valuable? Great question. The first step is to examine the coin under good lighting. Look for signs of wear. If Washington's cheek and hair show flattening or smoothing, your coin has circulated and likely isn't in high-grade condition. But if all the details are crisp and there are no scratches, it could be a high-grade piece. Check for the mint mark, make sure it's the D. Then, if you're still unsure, consider having the coin professionally graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. These organizations will authenticate and grade your coin, giving you a much clearer sense of its market value. Now, let's get to the part you've been waiting for, the value. While most circulated 1996 D quarters are worth face value or slightly above, high-grade examples, particularly those graded MS-67, have sold for as much as $151 in recent auctions. That's right. A single quarter, worth 25 cents on the street, is being valued at over 600 times its face value. What makes this even more fascinating is the relatability of the story. Unlike some rare coins that were minted centuries ago or only exist in private collections, the 1996 D quarter is a modern coin. It's a coin you might find in your change, at the bottom of an old piggy bank, or tucked away in a childhood coin collection. It's accessible, and that's what makes it exciting. So next time you receive a handful of change, take a closer look. You never know what treasure might be staring back at you, a Roosevelt quarter with a D that could be worth far more than its humble denomination suggests. And if you happen to come across a pristine 1996 D in stunning condition, well, now you know just how special it might be. You're digging through a jar of loose change, maybe looking for quarters for the parking meter, or maybe just tidying up that drawer we all have in the kitchen. As the coins clink together, something catches your eye, a quarter that looks a little different. You hold it up and spot the dates, 1776 to 1976. And right beneath it, the words, E pluribus unum. It feels old, special. Unique, you might not think twice, or you might have just stumbled on a rare piece of American history. In today's video, we're diving deep into the story of the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter, an iconic coin minted in celebration of America's 200th birthday. This is more than just a piece of metal. It's a coin that represents a pivotal moment in the American story. And if you stick around until the end, I'll tell you why one particular version of this quarter could be worth as much as $154, and how to find out if you have one. But to understand why this coin matters, and why it's become a favorite among collectors, we have to go back. Way back. Let's rewind to the 1970s. The Vietnam War was ending, Watergate had shaken the foundations of American trust in politics, and the nation was preparing for a massive milestone, its bicentennial. 200 years since the 13 colonies declared independence from Great Britain, the United States wanted to mark the occasion in a big way. There were parades, fireworks, historical reenactments, and patriotic tributes in every corner of the country. But among all the grand gestures and celebrations, something smaller, quieter, would become one of the most lasting tributes to America's 200th year. Coins. The U.S. Mint decided to release special commemorative designs for the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins. And the one that most people would see and carry with them every day was the quarter. This wouldn't be just another standard Washington quarter. This one would be different, both in design and in meaning. On the obverse, or the front, the quarter still features the familiar profile of George Washington, originally designed by John Flanagan. But if you look closely, you'll notice the dates beneath Washington's bust are not the usual single year, like 1975 or 1976. Instead, they read 1776 to 1976, a nod to the bicentennial celebration, and right beneath that, the Latin phrase we've all seen on coins but rarely think about, E pluribus unum. It means, out of many, one. It's been a motto of the United States since the 18th century, signifying the unity of the original colonies into a single nation. But flip the coin over, the reverse side, and you'll see something completely different from your typical eagle design. Instead, the reverse features a bold and beautiful image of a colonial drummer, a tribute to the spirit and struggle of the Revolutionary War. A victory torch shines to the left, symbolizing freedom and triumph. His design beat out hundreds of others to earn a place on the reverse of millions of quarters. It perfectly captures the American spirit, young, defiant, musical, and hopeful. The U.S. Mint didn't hold back. In fact, they began minting these special bicentennial quarters in 1975 and continued through 1976. Interestingly, none of the quarters minted in those 2 years bear the individual date, 1975 or 1976, they all show 1776 to 1976 as a shared dual date. Despite their age, most bicentennial quarters today are still worth, well, about 25 cents. That's because so many were made. But some rare and high-quality versions are turning heads, and fetching real money, collectors look for proof coins, silver content, errors, and, most of all, condition. A coin that's been in circulation for decades will show signs of wear. But a coin kept in pristine, uncirculated condition, especially with a high grade from a professional grading service, can command much higher prices. Then there are the error coins, coins that were misstruck, double-struck, or have off-center designs. These mistakes make them much more valuable to collectors. So what's the holy grail? Let me tell you about the version that's turning heads, the 1976 silver proof quarter in PR 70 DCAM, proof 70 deep cameo, condition. That means the coin is in perfect, flawless condition with a deep mirror-like finish and frosted details. It's the top grade a coin can receive. One such coin recently sold at auction $4,154. Let that sink in, $154 for a single quarter. In a way, the 1776 to 1976 quarter isn't just a piece of money, it's a piece of memory. A tiny time capsule. A celebration in your pocket. Even if your coin isn't worth hundreds of dollars, it still represents something meaningful. A celebration of 200 years of American independence, a nationwide effort to commemorate the birth of a nation, and a glimpse into the artistry and pride that went into designing a coin meant for every American's hand. So the next time you're thumbing through your change, keep an eye out for that colonial drummer, those dual dates, and the subtle shine of silver. You never know, you might just be holding a tiny piece of history, or a $154 surprise. Today, we're diving into a fascinating chapter of American numismatics, focusing on a coin that might seem ordinary at first glance but holds an extraordinary story. The 1965 USA quarter dollar is more than just a piece of change, it's a symbol of a transformative era, a piece of history minted in a time of change, and a treasure in the eyes of collectors. So, buckle up, because by the end of this video, you'll see why this seemingly modest coin can command an impressive value of $156 and why it deserves a place in your collection. Let's start by setting the scene. The year is 1965, the mid-1960s, a period of social, political, and cultural upheaval in the United States. The nation was navigating the complexities of the Cold War, civil rights movements were gaining momentum, and the space race was heating up, capturing the imagination of Americans young and old. In the middle of all this change, the United States Mint was quietly producing coins that would come to reflect not only the economy but also the evolving story of the nation itself. Now, the 1965 quarter dollar is special because it marked a significant shift in American coinage. Up until 1964, quarters were composed of 90% silver, a precious metal that gave these coins intrinsic value beyond their face value. But by 1965, rising silver prices and economic pressures forced a change. The Coinage Act of 1965 eliminated silver from dimes and quarters, replacing it with a clad composition of copper and nickel. This move was intended to stabilize the coinage system and prevent hoarding of silver coins, but it also created a distinct division between silver and clad coins in collectors' minds. The design of the quarter itself, however, remained the same, a testament to continuity amid change. The obverse features the iconic profile of George Washington, the first President of the United States. Designed originally by John Flanagan in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth, this portrait has become one of the most recognized images on American currency. The detail is remarkable: Washington's dignified gaze, the finely rendered hair tied back in a queue, and the subtle texture that gives life to the coin's surface. Minting the 1965 quarters was a task that involved significant logistical challenges. The transition from silver to clad coins required new machinery calibrations and quality control processes. The U.S. Mint struck millions of these quarters at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, producing coins for the nation's everyday transactions. Unlike the prior silver quarters, these 1965 quarters were not intended for collectors initially, they were made for circulation, to be spent, saved, and passed along, but as with many coins, time and scarcity create value beyond the metal itself. Collectors began to appreciate the 1965 quarter for several reasons. First, it represents a turning point in U.S. minting history, the end of silver quarters, a change that would influence coin collecting and economics for decades. Secondly, certain varieties and minting errors from 1965 make some coins particularly rare and sought after. Collectors often look for the quality of the coin, using grading scales to determine its condition. A coin in mint state, with no wear and sharp details, can be worth significantly more than one worn smooth from decades of use. The 1965 quarter's value can range from just a few cents in worn condition to a remarkable $156 or more if it's in near-perfect condition with unique features. And here's an interesting tidbit: the 1965 quarter was also part of the broader shift in U.S. coinage that would eventually lead to other changes, including the introduction of the bicentennial quarter in 1976. The 1965 quarter, in a way, bridges the past and the future, connecting generations through the simple act of passing a coin from hand to hand. So, the next time you hold a quarter, think about the journey it's been on. From the presses at the Philadelphia and Denver mints to countless pockets, wallets, and cash registers, each coin carries a silent story. And among these stories, the 1965 quarter stands out as a symbol of change and endurance. In conclusion, the 1965 USA quarter dollar is far more than just a coin. It's a piece of American heritage, a numismatic milestone, and a collectible gem that commands respect and admiration. Its transition from silver to clad composition marks a critical moment in history. Its design honors the legacy of George Washington and the strength of the nation. And its value today, reaching up to $156 for the best examples, is a testament to the lasting appeal and importance of this humble coin. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the 1965 quarter dollar. If you enjoyed learning about this coin's history, design, and collector value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more fascinating stories from the world of coins and currency. Have you ever found a rare coin like this in your change? Or do you have a favorite coin story? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your hands ready, and your curiosity alive. Because sometimes, the smallest pieces of metal hold the biggest stories.